Evening all. Happy Sunday. Fuck. I'm just trying to get last of this set up. There we go. Should be good to go now. Let me know how that is. We get a few people in here. We get talking about last night. And I don't want to just talk about the main event, obviously. I want to talk about the whole night in general and the BT show card that was on that I only saw this morning, where we had Willie Hutchinson getting upset by Lennox Clark. That was a good knockout. That was a very good knockout. So we get a few people in here. Let the chat kind of build. And I want to know what y'all thought of last night. What do you think of Dillian Whyte? What do you think of Povetkin? I just want to make sure that everything is set up as it should be, because I had to move a lot of stuff. That's why it took a little bit longer to get on. And let's see how we get going. So I get a few people in here. Sunday live stream. And we get cracking. Just let me know how all that sounds. I think it sounds all right. It should sound okay. And we should be good to go. Yeah, because I had a few issues getting this set up, as I said there. A few issues. I had to move a lot of stuff to get this thing set up, but we're good to go. So I'll get into ask a few questions. Did you notice Povetkin's ring walk? He seemed slow and unsteady before he was getting punched. Should I be honest? I wasn't paying attention to Povetkin during the ring walk, to be honest with you. I seen his ring walk. I did, but to me, look, I have to watch it back because people have been telling me he looked very all over the place during the ring walk. I don't know, but for sure, when I watched Povetkin there against Dillian Whyte back in August, he looked terrible, right? I think that's fair to say. Even though he won the fight, he looked pretty awful, right? He looked pretty awful, right? Now, I thought to myself, right, you give him a good camp, you give him a bit of time to recover, etc. I still thought Dillian Whyte would win the fight, but I thought Povetkin wouldn't look near as bad as he did that time around. Jesus, people. He looked worse. I've never seen Povetkin look that bad. He looked shot to pieces, honestly. He looked shot to pieces. I've never seen Alexander Povetkin look that bad in his whole career. His movement, his timing, even Povetkin's always been, for the most part, the shorter fighter when he's in there, right? Because he's only about 6'2", 6'1", so he's always been the shorter fighter. He's always been having to look for hooks and stuff. But even his timing with that, he would throw a hook and it would miss, but it wouldn't be like before, where maybe his hook only just grazes Povetkin or Dillian Whyte or something like that. These were missing by country miles. I mean, I'll just say it now. That is the worst, by far and away, I have ever seen Alexander Povetkin. I think I said it today in one of my videos, if he wants to go and have maybe one last hurrah fight in Russia against, an opponent, that's fine. Maybe, because I think maybe that's the level he's kind of at now. But in terms of him competing at world level, if he is, I would say just retire. I mean, maybe, as I said, because he's such a big name in Russia and he's not fought there for a couple of years. If he wanted to fight someone at a low level, like a Julius Long, because that was a fun fight he had on the Parker undercard, someone like that, maybe as a kind of farewell fight. But in terms of him being actual up there, the upper echelons, those days are long. Those days are gone, man. I think Michael Hunter was the last of it. That took what was left of Povetkin, the Michael Hunter fight, because that was a tough fight for Povetkin. I think that really took it out of him. I really think that took the steam out of Povetkin, and he's not been right since. And he is getting older. As much as I like Eddie, his description of Whyte performance as phenomenal was a stretch. It was aggressive. It was effective against the shot-worn Povetkin. Look, Dillian Whyte looked very, very good in there, but I am not going to be one of these guys who's going to come out and say, oh, this is, Dillian Whyte is improved exponentially, he's this, he's that. I'm with you. I think that Povetkin, I think it's a bit of both. I think we had a good Dillian Whyte. We had a Dillian Whyte who definitely seemed in better shape, who looked as good as I've ever seen him. But bear in mind, you got to flip the coin, and you got to say that Povetkin really, really, really was way past it. A big up to Rich every time. Big up, #GMansRocks. And I think I answered that question already before I went live. I didn't watch Seconds Out. No intention of watching it. Knew who was on it, but I had no intention of watching it. I'll stick to Mark or Ade. Yeah, joking. G. Prince Patel got the win last night. Yeah, I seen that. I seen he got a win last night. Prince Patel. I could care a little about Prince Patel and what he does these days. To be honest with you, mate, he's fought absolutely nobody. And the minute he stepped up and he fought the guy, what was the guy's name? Basquez, Michel Basquez. He got absolutely his head boxed off. So yeah, Prince Patel got a win. I think that was in South Africa or somewhere like that. But it don't mean anything in the grand scheme of things, mate, to be honest with you. Prince Patel ain't going to do nothing. In terms of African fighters who fought the weekend, I was in the middle of recording the post-fight for Evgeny Teshenko, or Teshenko, however you pronounce it, when the Nick Webb fight was on. That was a good performance by Tabisu Machunu. If anyone hasn't seen Evgeny Teshenko, or Tasienko, however you pronounce it, he was a cruiserweight, and he won gold. He won gold in Rio. And this was a good amateur, very good amateur, very experienced amateur. And he went in there and he got outboxed by Tabiso Machunu. Tabiso Machunu, for those who don't know, is he's South African. He is South African. And he's a cruiserweight, but he's only about 5'8", 5'9", very small. And what a boxer. He's a good little boxer. Tabiso Machunu, for those who don't know, lost to Ilunga Makabu back in 2015, I think it was 2015 he lost to Ilunga Makabu. And he lost that fight because he gassed, basically late. If he'd have won that fight, he would have fought Tony Bellew at Goodison Park. And I'm telling you now, that would have been an interesting fight. Because Machunu was very talented. The only person who's really put a beating on Machunu was Usyk. That's the only person who's really put it on to beat Machunu, is Alexander Usyk. And big up to you, man. Every time Povetkin had a couple of shots of vodka, he may well have had, because he was all over the place in there from the get-go. Povetkin's always been someone who marks up really easy. So when he was marking up, that didn't really jump at me as being a worry, because he's always marked up a bit. But just how easy he was getting hit, because Povetkin's never had an amazing defense, but even he looked terrible, really poor in there. Even big up to Helene Graham, big up to you, my man, every time. Hey, machine. Will Whyte definitely fight Wilder next? Well, he's saying he's saying a few things. Do you know that he's saying a few things? He's saying that he wants Trevor Bryan, and then he's saying that he wants Deontay Wilder. Well, I think Eddie Hearn actually correct me. Sorry, Eddie Hearn said he wants Deontay Wilder. Dylan Whyte saying he wants Trevor Bryan, but then he's saying that he wants to get in between the AJ Fury fight, saying that I'm going to do a video on that tomorrow as well, that if he has to break AJ's legs, he's getting that fight made. And I think John Fury said on the BT coverage last night that fight is still not signed it's still not signed accordingly on John Fury's end. You don't know what John Fury knows, but it's getting a bit weird now. I genuinely thought we would get an announcement on that card. I really did. I thought we'd get an announcement, but we haven't heard anything yet. It's a weird one. Hearing you loud and clear. Big up to Joe. Shout out to Joe Stunner. Hello to everyone, man. Big up to Joe every time. And big up to Ra. Povetkin was on the Russian standard before the ring walk. Yeah, it looked like he was on something all right. Ironic, Mike Perez said he was on the gargle before he fought Povetkin. Povetkin did I've never seen it. And you know what, right? I'll take a drink, I'll leave you in suspense. But you would have to, as far as I'm concerned, right? The way he was looking, would he not have looked like that in camp, in sparring, you know? And would that not have been a worry for your team? You know, if you know how poor Povetkin looked up until he knocked Dillian Whyte out the first time, if he's in camp and he is looking every bit as poor, would that not be a worry for like your team? So like if you're seeing that, would that not show up in training? You know, when he's out there in Russia and he is maybe say getting hurt by guys or he's getting a bit bashed up, does that not kind of make you worry a little bit? Like if you're in the team and you're seeing that, maybe that's just me. Maybe it's just me thinking too much. Povetkin looked older than old. He's in his 40s now and coming off the Rona. Time to ride off into the sunset. He's earned the right to enjoy the rest of his. Povetkin has earned a rake of money over the years. Like even before he started fighting on Matchroom shows, he was getting well paid over there in Russia. Rabinsky, the billionaire promoter who promotes Povetkin. Povetkin's been getting well paid for years. So Povetkin at this stage, I mean, I know he's one of these guys. He just likes fighting. He is that type of guy. He's old school. He just is like a mercenary. You just pay him to fight. Surely enough's enough, and he's made well enough of money to be comfortable for God knows how many years. Because he was fairly well off, I want to say, back in like 5 years ago. Like, the Klitschko fight paid him well. He had fights subsequent to that. So for Povetkin, I really don't, especially when you're kind of done at world level, judging by last night. What's the need to keep going? Because as far as I was aware, as far as I'm concerned, he's made his money long before now. So he could have retired a couple of years ago, but obviously he still felt he had a run in him at world level. I think that's well and truly gone now. So for me, I think Povetkin needs to just take that bag and sail off into the sunset. Although sunset's in Russia quite early, so sail off into somewhere in Russia anyway. Big up to Kenny. How's life, G-Man? Shout out from Scotland. He had no legs under him. How is life? Life is brilliant at the minute. It's going real well. Some changes happening, mate. There's some good things happening. Not on YouTube, but just outside of it. There's some pretty big changes happening, man. Seriously, there's just been some good stuff happening. We just hope it stays that way. Povetkin's legs were do you know what? From the minute that fight started, and I saw the shots Povetkin wasn't throwing and the shots he was missing, I was just like, he's a shot fighter. You just tell by the way a fighter, his whole position is, the way he stands, he just looks shot. His timing in the 5th round in the first fight was okay, but other than that, he was shot. And the end was coming. I was surprised, to be fair, though, because for all of Povetkin's flaws in this fight, he did show, I know he got stopped, but his punch resistance was nowhere near as bad as the first fight. If you remember back to the first fight, he was getting dropped by shots that didn't look that concussive. Did anyone see the right hand that Dillian Whyte landed in the 3rd round? I mean, how Povetkin stood up to that is beyond me, because that was a peach of a right hand Dillian Whyte landed. I know it was power shot as the left hook, but the fact that Povetkin stood up to that, and that was flush, shows that the chin is still there, to an extent. But Povetkin is done so. There was some good fights on, though. I mean, like Nick Webb versus Eric Pfeiffer. And we saw Alan Babbage interrupt Nick Webb's interview. And he was in the comment section of that video, believe it or not, actually, of one of my videos. So big up to Nick Webb. In terms of Babbage versus Webb, that's an interesting fight. Because Alan Babbage has been feasting on guys like Tom Little, who are shot. Someone like Niall Kennedy, who is garbage. Shondell Winters, who is a cruiserweight, lest we forget. Fighting someone like Nick Webb, a big, tall, strong, hard-hitting heavyweight, oh boy, that could be an interesting fight. Now, that's a fight I want to see. And Nick Webb isn't afraid to come forward and slug it out. So him and Alan Babbage, that could be, and they're both. I think Nick Webb definitely Nick Webb's the harder puncher. I mean, Alan Babbage's power is okay, but I think it's more the fact he overwhelms you as opposed to him being a naturally concussive puncher. But Nick Webb can bang. So him against Alan Babbage, I'll take that. I'll go for that. Put that on the Parker Chisora card, please. That'd be a decent little fight for it. Cheeseman versus Metcalf, best fight of the night. That should have been the co-main event. I don't know why they didn't make that co-main event. That to me was, I thought that would be co-main. That was a great fight. I thought Metcalf would win. It was a up and down seesaw fight. It was the conditioning as well as Ted Cheeseman. There wasn't much difference between the two, in terms of the general. Ted Cheeseman had a bit more skill, yeah, definitely. But Metcalf, he's been around for so long, but he's not had any like real grueling fights like Cheeseman had. It's a double-edged sword at the end of the day. It's good to have them because it gets you in good stead, but you don't want to have them at the same time, like I said in my post-fight, because God knows what could happen to you long-term. Ted Cheeseman's 25. He looks about 35. He has been getting bashed up, in some of these fights. So, I like Ted Cheeseman, I do, but Jesus, he's got a young family. You don't want to see him get absolutely ironed out, Big up to Luca. Did you see KO from UFC last night? I did. I saw, what's the guy's name? Francis Ngannou knock out Stipe Miocic. That was a good knockout. Holy shit. that Francis Ngannou, is that how you pronounce the guy's name? I would know guys like him. Like, I'm a proper casual UFC. I don't get into it because I don't speak on things I don't know. But that was some knockout. Holy shit. And I actually thought Stipe would win that fight. You know, both guys are good. Both guys are solid heavyweights. And damn, you know, you got John Jones up and coming. But that was a chilling knockout, man. That was a bad knockout. You know, Stipe Miocic got knocked out by DC. That was an elbow or something, wasn't it? And then we just have to get knocked out by Ngannou. That was a hell of a knockout. Whyte just came out and said he had a hamstring injury, but kept it quiet. You see, I don't discount that when fighters say they had injuries and stuff like that, because you are not, as a fighter, going to come out and say to someone, "Oh yeah, I'm you know, I'm this, I'm that, I'm injured," going into a fight. You're going to say it after a fight. So for me, I don't discount that at all. Big up to Michael Van Gerwen. Hello, G-Man. Hope you're having a good Sunday. I'm having a great Sunday, man. I'm fucking stoked. I'm having a great time of the day. It's been grand so far. We get top boxing now. Shit. As I fucking bang up again the heater. I'm doing this in my bedroom, so it's a bit cramped because I have everything kind of stumped into one place. But look, we soldier on. Did you see BT Sports show as well? Two of Warren's amateurs, Addington and Hutchinson, got starched. Yeah, I didn't see if he's that cruiserweight who got knocked out in 2 rounds. I didn't see that, but I heard about it all right. But I seen Willie Hutchinson. Willie Hutchinson never really impressed me, though. You know, at light heavyweight or at super middle, he never really impressed me too much. You know, I did see the knockout. It was a bad knockout. It was a good stoppage by the referee because Willie Hutchinson was out on his feet. But you see, a lot of Warren's guys who are up and coming, apart from like say 2 or 3, like when he had Daniel Dubois and Joe Joyce come, or not Joe Joyce, when he had what's the guy's name, Anthony Yard coming up, you could see something in them and you could see markability with them. With some of the other guys he gets out of the amateurs, you're just like, who the hell are these guys? You know, some of them, and they don't look particularly amazing, this, that, and the other. I know Eddie Hearn's Team GB guys, most of them aren't and the right home about. Like Lawrence Okoli be the best out of 2016 squad, but at least Eddie Hearn knows how to kind of market them a little bit better and match them a little bit better. And I think most of them are just slightly more talented anyway. He needs to watch Denzel Bentley because he is going to be good. And when he fights Felix Cash, I expect he'll win. Personally, I think he'll win that fight. But yeah, I did see that. I did. You know, big up to Tony every time. How are you, my man? Gee, you've seen Sonny Edwards fighting Matalana. I've not seen much or any at all of Matalana, if I'm honest, but I know Sonny Edwards is serious talent. Yeah, I did. I seen a little bit of him. He's a decent fighter. Sonny Edwards is in for a rough night. That's what I will say. Sonny Edwards is in for a pretty rough night. That's what I will say on that. You know, it's going to be tough. That's going to be tough for him. But it's a good, hey, look, it's a good little test. It'd be interesting to see how he gets on. You know, I'd still like to see him and Jay Harris slug it out. I think Jay Harris is a good fighter. He's definitely value for money. You know, he's definitely value for money. So we need to see. I don't know. I can't see. So you could prove me wrong, but Sonny Edwards, he's talented. He is, but we need to see how he gets on there. Wilder versus Molina, time to hang up the gloves. He never looked like he even tried to beat the count. Yeah, that was bizarre. Like, that was just so flipping. That was just so flipping silly. Like, that fight. You know, I mean, Molina. Do you know what the thing is? Molina, if he came in shape and came with a bit of ambition, he could have made a good fight of that. He really could have made a good fight of that. Eric Molina could have, but and then he's saying he was hit around. He's always had questionable heart. He's always been. Molina is just one of them. He's just one of them guys who just is good enough to get the paychecks, but just the minute it gets tough in there, the minute he thinks his back's up against it, he just doesn't want to know. He just doesn't want to know. The fact that Povetkin's cornered through and tell Myers suggested they knew the right was on the wall before the open bell. Yeah, they were quick to throw that towel in. They really were. They were quick to throw that towel in. I suspect they seen something in training. I reckon, to be honest with you, Povetkin and his team probably knew before they even called quits on the first fight. So before they even called quits, I should say, on the first date, that this was near the end. And maybe they thought by, having more time to prepare all this, it might benefit them, but no. I think they knew deep down Povetkin was just, he was a shell of his former self, and the writing was on the wall anyway. Povetkin got up before the count of 10, but if the referee had let it continue, he wouldn't have lasted any longer anyway. And even if he got through the fourth round, I couldn't see what happened in the first fight happening again. No way. I think that Povetkin just, it was gone. What was left was just not there anymore. What was there before just wasn't there now. That's what I think. I respect Fiverr taking still. Yeah, that was a nice little gesture by Dillian Whyte. That was actually, I give him credit for that. Fair play to him. Yes, G, just tuned in. What do you think about Wadley versus Nick Webb? That's not a bad shout. That's actually not a bad shout at all. Wadley versus Nick Webb. Nick Webb has been on the comeback trail since those 2 losses, and during which time he won Ultimate Fighter, which is basically Prize Fighter, basically. Which wasn't bad. He got a nice little payday for that. He definitely can punch Nick Webb. I mean, that's one thing he definitely seems to have. Nick Webb's not the fastest heavyweight out there. He's not the most sophisticated, but he definitely comes to take your head off. He's not afraid to get into a tear up. And for whatever flaws he has, punching power is not one of them. No, sir. No, sir. Nick Webb can punch. And someone like Wadley, someone like Alan Babbage, if they go in there and they get, put it like this, him against Babbage, I don't know who I take in that fight. Seriously, I don't know who I take in that fight, because Babbage is fun to watch, but he is just asking to get countered. And if he gets hit by a proper heavyweight like Nick Webb who can punch, he's in trouble, by the way. He's in trouble. And by the way, people, if you could, we got how many? 48 in the building. If you could, please smash the like button. Greatly appreciated if you could hit the like button. Doesn't cost a penny. I try not to ask for it too much. We've got 20 likes. Let's try and see if we can get it in around the 30-40 region for this stream anyway. I'm not going to ask for it much. Just if you could, I'd appreciate it. Last of the scofflaws I was reading. I thought you said coffee there. Last of the scofflaws. Hashtag G-Man rocks always. Love the channel. Big up. But still pushing you to talk about smaller weights. I know. I don't do it enough. And I do like smaller weights as well. I just don't flipping do it enough. I don't know why. Because I do genuinely like the smaller weight classes, and I would sooner watch, for the most part anyway, smaller fighters, because I think there's a lot more entertainment in those divisions. I don't know why I don't do it. But Sonny Edwards versus Morty Mahlana. I think that's how you pronounce it, Mahlana. It's a good fight. I will be definitely favouring Mahlana because he's a very good champion. He's very solid. I've seen him a few times. Him against Edwards. I've watched Edwards a few times. He does look okay, but it's a big step up. It's a big step up. That shot in the third was one of the best shots of the fight. I don't know how he stood up to it. Honestly, God, I really don't know how he was able to take that shot bang on the chin and just keep going. Povetkin. I really don't, because I thought his punch resistance had been diminished. But Jesus, if it was, that shot would have knocked the horse out. And he took that, no problem. I won't say no problem, but he still took it. Keane says he'd like to see Nick Webb versus Dominic Brazil. I don't know. Again, that'd be a good little scrap. That'd be a good. You would favour Dominic Brazil. He's fought at a much higher level, but neither guy is particularly hard to. Well, Brazil is so slow. Like, Nick Webb is not the most fleet-footed of heavyweights. That's fair to say. He's not exactly going to be moving around the ring gracefully like, Vasily Lomachenko. But even he's faster than Dominic Brazil. Brazil really is painfully slow. In fact, you'd have a harder time trying to miss Dominic Brazil than you would trying to hit him. It's probably the biggest fight in the heavyweight. Yeah, it is. I'd love that fight. I would honestly love to see it. I hope we do see that fight. It's a good fight. I think Babbage would be a bit too busy for Webb, but at least Nick would hit back. Good matchup. It's a good matchup, and I'm just thinking stylistically, and I think that you see with Babbage, he comes in so recklessly, that, and I've seen this like against Winters. Like if you go back and look at the first, like say, minute against Winters, before Winters ended up getting overwhelmed, he was having a bit of success just by moving around and jabbing a little bit. He exerts so much energy. He throws so many like hard shots, but he does leave himself off balance. And I know Nick Webb is not going to, get up on his toes and box, but you do figure if Babbage meets someone like Nick Webb head on, that Nick Webb is bigger, stronger, he hits harder, he might be able to do some work in there. And if he lands on Alan Babbage, that's going to be interesting because Tom Little's not a puncher. Niall Kennedy can't crack an egg. Shondale Winters isn't a big puncher. So if any of them guys hit him, it wouldn't make much. It probably wouldn't affect him that much. Nick Webb, how big tall is Nick Webb? He's well over 6'4". Big punching heavyweight. That'd be a problem if he tags Alan Babbage. Be a big problem. I felt that hadn't kind of ruined the momentum of the show. Definitely agree, Cheeseman. Oh yeah, like why that wasn't the co-main, I don't know. Because the minute I heard that, I was like, that's the co-main event. And I thought, it's not a bad fight. I knew it would be a good fight. And they didn't have it as co-main. I was like, why? You're putting Wadley versus Melina. I mean, like, that's an early card. That's a early fight card. You wouldn't put that as the co-main. They didn't put Hergovich and him as the co-main on AJ's card. I'll name this account later. What do you think is going on with PBC? They haven't put on any big shows this year. Matchroom US appear to be taking over. I suspect they're going to do what they did last time, which is just wait and then announce a load of shows, because they done that last time, because a few of us were making videos on it. When Matchroom, when Bob Arum, when Golden Boy were putting shows back on after the lockdowns, we were saying, where's PBC? And then all of a sudden they just came out and they just chucked a load of big fights at us. So I reckon something like that is going to happen. They're just going to chuck a load of these big fights at us. And hey, I'll put it like this: the fights PBC put on, now, to be fair, the Davis Santa Cruz card was crap, apart from the main event, but still, they've shook some big fights at us. Povetkin offered a handshake at the weigh-in, and Whyte gave him a fist pump, overcame the Soviet mic. Yeah. Dillian Whyte with the fist pumping. Where are we at? I missed loads of comments. I've missed loads and loads of questions. There we go. Cheeseman's only 25. His style means he's a case of dementia waiting to happen. I hope not, Joe. I honestly hope not. Hopefully he could win some more big belts, get a few life-changing paychecks before he checks out. I hope not. But when I look at Cheeseman, right, Garcia, he took so many shots. Oh my God, he took so many shots in that fight. He had the Conway fight, again, tough fight, took a good few shots in that. I thought he won the Conway fight, to be fair. I thought that was a bit harsh not to give him the decision. Fought Scott Fitzgerald. Wasn't a grueling fight, it has to be said, against Fitzgerald. I thought Fitzgerald done enough to nick it. But still, he was getting hit a little bit too much. And then he fought Eggington, and that was a war. And now he's had this. He's had so many tough fights over the last few years. You kind of got to wonder how does it all look up there in terms of neurologically. Because you can't tell me at 25 he's got many years left in him. I mean, there are fighters who turn pro at, say, like 23, 24. And in 10 years' time, they could still be relatively useful. You would imagine in 10 years' time, if Cheeseman's still around, I don't even want to think about what the interviews would be like if Cheeseman's still around in 10 years' time. I can't see it. Wouldn't like to see Cheeseman go up against a top-level puncher if even Fowler could hurt him. Yeah, I'd go with Anthony Fowler in that fight, to be honest with you. I don't particularly have much time for Fowler, but he definitely hits a lot harder than a lot of these guys. I'm sure he hits harder than James Metcalf, and I'm sure he'd be able to hurt Ted Cheeseman, because unless Ted Cheeseman can actually box a bit, he can. So maybe for Fowler, he would box a little bit more, but I think he's one of these guys, I said in one of my last videos, that he likes to get into a tear-up, He likes to get into these tear-ups, and if he wants to go back to European level, I mean, there's some good fighters at European level, and heaven forbid he goes near world level. I mean, could you imagine they put you? Do you remember when Cheeseman fought Carson Jones? You can go on Twitter and check this as well, by the way. When he fought Carson Jones, Jamal, I think it was Jamal, not Jamel, because I think Jamal was still at 154 at the time. Even he was getting people on Twitter asking about Ted Cheeseman. I remember that because I remember him retweeting something and mentioning Cheeseman or something like that. Could you imagine if he was in there with a Jamel Charlo at 154? How that would last about what, a round? That would literally last a round. He'd be gone in a round. Never mind questions. Never mind my question. No, I got your question. I'll read your questions, mate. Have no fear. I'll read your questions. I'm glad people are excited about the Edwards fight. I'm excited about it, mate. And I will read your questions, by the way. It's just there's a lot of them here, and sometimes I spend too long on one. You know, sometimes I spend a bit too long on one. Cheeseman's fight will be fight of the year if Estrada Chocolatito didn't happen. Hate the decision in that fight, by the way. Yeah, it was a close fight. I thought Chocolatito won, but the 117-111 scorecard was a joke. 57 in the chat. If you could, you're doing Nick Armour's job tonight. You know, big up to Nick wherever he is, but big up to him. But yeah, if you could, lad, smash the like button. As I said, as Mark Unrivaled would say, it doesn't cost a penny. You know, it doesn't cost a penny, and it helps me out. I just seen this. Oh, lads. Look who's in the chat. I have returned. Spuddy. Big up to Spuddy's boxing cobbles every time. And I miss seeing him on stream. You know, I miss his opinion. You know, I like that Spuddy's boxing cobbles does have a channel, but I miss his opinion now. But I'm sure he's absolutely losing it. There's no pubs opened. There's no Guinness going around. But big up to Spuddy every time. Big up to Spuddy. Hashtag Spud Squad. There you go. I've G-Man's Rocks. He has the Spud Squad. Big up to J-Day. Oh, I thought that was J-Dev. JD. No, if it was J-Dev, it'd be a sex question. If Cheeseman can clean up his defense, he would be a good little boxer. Yeah, because he can box. He's got potential there in a box, but he just flipping likes getting into a tear. I don't know why. I have no idea why he does that. But, hey, yo. I'll big up to Ben, by the way. But yeah, big up to Keen. What's Keen say here? Fabio needs to bring that left hand up. Oh, yeah, man. He's going to get absolutely lifted off the ground if he gets hit with that left hand, or if he keeps that left hand down. He is going to get lifted off the ground if he keeps with that left hand down low. You know, for someone who would know amateur fights at all, you know, he definitely boxes like someone who is a little bit too overconfident. Not in a sense of, you know, we think he's better than he is. Maybe he does, but someone who boxes like that, left hand down low, stuff like that, it's just asking to be countered and timed. It is. I can see some of the benefits of having your left hand down low is that you can blind someone with the jab, but you want to have a lot more experience before you go around like doing stuff like that. Big up to King Dale Clark. What's up, brother? We're all good, man. We got good old Spuddy in the chat. We got a good old Spuddy in the chat. If Fury AJ falls through, you think Fury fights Wilder or Whyte next? I'd love to see Fury Wilder, or not Wilder, Whyte in the UK with fans. And I think Frank Warren would absolutely be foaming at the mouth, because he would make a bomb on that. If you got fans in at attendance, that'd fill out Old Trafford easily. Fury versus, well, I don't think Fury's ever going to fight in the UK again, he said. I mean, when you think about it, he hasn't fought in the UK since when? He's only, actually, since he came back, he's only fought once in the UK against Fury. Other than that, he fought in Ireland when he fought Pianetta. Then he's fought in America every other fight. So it's mad, actually, when you think about it. He's only fought once in the UK. And now Crawford says he's moving on from Spence. It's the welterweight division. Just nothing to care about anymore. I care about the guys up and coming, but in terms of the top guys, mate, I'm starting to lose a bit of hope there, to be honest with you. I'm starting to lose a bit of hope there. G-Man, are you surprised? No, I'm not surprised. And he's looking in good shape. This fight's happening. I'm telling you now, this fight's happening. It's happening. It's going to happen. Canelo's going to win, but Billy Joe is going to be, he's going to be game. I'm telling you now. If I'm wrong and he ends up getting knocked out, come at me. But I'm telling you now, Billy Joe was going to be game. Definitely. Wasn't impressed with Wadley at all. No, I wasn't at all. I didn't think he looked good in there at all. It's just, it is what it is. It is what it is. What's Pigeon saying? The dude had a few days notice to fight. He had 14 days to train. He would have KO'd Hatton. Well, I don't think he would have KO'd Campbell Hatton, but people were saying too much about Campbell Hatton. The guy had his pro debut on a big show. He's 20 years old, 15 amateur fights. No use judging him on that one performance. It's not like Campbell Hatton came from winning Olympic gold and you put him in there with someone. No. We need to give him time. I'll give him a bit of time. The body punching looks all right. The jab doesn't look too bad. He just needs to be a bit more refined. Stop trying to force things a little bit, because he was forcing the stoppage in there and he didn't get it and he was tired. But look, we need to see how he does. The guy he was fighting was durable. He was only stopped once in his pro debut. So we give Campbell Hatton a break. We need to see how he looks. After about 10 fights, we'll have a look at him then. And if he's not improved, then we might be able to say, okay. But for now, we just need to see how he gets on. Golden Mike 30, Denmark here. Yo, shout out. Man's from Denmark. Big up to you, man. What's it like over there? Whyte deserves credit for the performance, not complaining about the hamstring injury. No, I'd well believe he had a hamstring injury. Fighters will never come out and just be like, oh yeah, I'm injured. They'll never do that. Never do that. I think Fabio needs a lifestyle change. His reflexes are good, but depends too much on them. Left hand needs to be, yeah. I think Wadley fights too much like he's been there, seen it, done it. That, I know, and this, that, and the other, and, et cetera. No, you need to just you need to learn these things. And you can get away with holding the left hand down low and this, that, and the other against, the Richard Lattes of the world, or the David, or what was his name, Simon Vallili. Imagine they put him in there. I just think off the top of my head, a decent enough domestic kind of heavyweight. Jesus Christ. Put him in there with Nathan Gorman, we'll say. You wouldn't be doing that with him. Although Gorman he got rid of Pavel Savas in 2 rounds last night, but Jesus Christ, he is getting bigger and bigger and bigger. I mean, Nathan Gorman, I don't know how he does it. That's an athlete, by the way. I don't know how the hell he does it. Cheeseman's opponent's okay. That was a brutal KO, reminiscent of Patrick Day. As far as I'm aware, JJ Metcalf is fine. JJ Metcalf is fine, so shouldn't be any issue. I hope not. Anyway, I certainly hope not. I've heard nothing. It was a bad knockout. Don't get me wrong, but as far as I know, JJ Metcalf is fine. It's fine. The avatar of David Price just looks like a Poundland Undertaker. Yeah, it's a great little avatar, isn't it? See, I have this set up in the room again. So, it's not ideal. It's a bit kind of the light. Believe it or not, there's 2 lights on. There's 2 lights on at this minute, and it looks shocking because that's how poor the light is in here. So I said I'll just put the avatar on. I could keep it like that, but no, we'll keep it with Pricey. We'll keep it with Pricey. I think Cheeseman was. I think when Cheeseman steps up, he's getting sparked. Yeah, Cheeseman's definitely. He's not going to be around in this game much longer, I don't think. And for his own health and safety, I hope not, because he takes way too many shots. Way too many. I thought Cheeseman was decent for similar patches to Sam Egerton. Yeah, well, Egerton was fortunate that he was a lot bigger at welterweight than he is at 154. So he was able to have a lot of success at welterweight. Cheeseman's a fairly decent size 154, but he's not massively bigger than most of these guys. They're big at that weight. So that style he has where he just comes forward. Works against guys like Asenia Byfield, but definitely not against the guys like Sergio Garcia. Hey, G-Man, are you planning on potentially going to Saudi to watch AJ Fury? Hopefully you'll have no more airport interactions. I've never had an airport interaction in my life. Would I go to it? Possibly. It depends on my situation. It depends, where it is. It depends on who I'm with at the time. And it just depends what they want to do as well, because they might not want to come. So we need to see. Need to see what we do then. Eubank versus Charlo. Either Charlo beats Eubank. Good fight, but no. If she, oh yeah, I think I read that already. Yeah, I thought that was thing. A big up to Spuddy. Yeah, I agree with you there. I don't agree with Ryder to beat Matalena. I'm probably saying that name all over the place. Mark will no doubt correct me, and no, he hasn't corrected me, but Matalena would drink Edward's blood. Yeah, I can't see anything other than a Matalena win. If I'm saying that name wrong again, apologies. Me and names struggle a bit. I'm honestly not impressed by Congo or Mackinson's performance. I felt Florian would show no respect to them in the ring. Yeah, I was really surprised with Chris Congo. I thought Chris Congo was quite a decent fight. Well, he still could be, but I really did think he'd win that fight pretty comfortably. And Jesus, Chris McIntosh, or Mackinson, however you pronounce it, it's not bad. He's useful. If Ruiz beats Areola, I think there's a chance of Whyte Ruiz soon. Well, he definitely will beat Areola, in my opinion. In terms of him versus Whyte, I would love to see it. I'd love to see it. Honestly, I would love to see it. I mean, Jesus, I think that would be a great fight. I would definitely be picking Andy Ruiz to win, just based on styles. But damn, that'd be such a fun fight. I think that'd be a great fight, and it would definitely do good numbers. So I'd love to see it. Him against Wilder or him against Ruiz, I would take. Oh, I don't know. I probably would. Yeah, no, I'd still want the Wilder fight, but they're both good. Before I read that question, I've still not bought any Bitcoin, not yet. From everyone I'm talking to, the majority are telling me to wait until the end of the year. So that's what they're saying. They're saying to wait until the end of the year. I also have a few messages on Twitter from people who've said, name of the thing. I forget the name of it. I'll get it for you now, actually. But a few people have told me to wait until the end of the year when the prices should be good to go. And just give me a sec and I'll get you the name of what it's called here. We're into Cardano, I think is what it's called. Cardano, yeah. I think that's what some people are calling it. Cardano. I think that's what some people are saying to stick a bit of money on. But most of them are saying wait until the end of the year. So that's exactly what I'm going to do. I'm going to take a wait, see what happens at the end of the year, and then go from there. So we'll wait until then. That's the plan anyway, giving out financial advice free of charge for anyone looking to invest. Lads, 67 in the chat. If you wouldn't mind one last time, just please smash the old like button if you could. G-Man, I didn't see Ryder Saunders fight years ago and wasn't watching boxes much then. Some say Ryder should win. Your thoughts? I know Blackwell stopped Ryder, felt it was legit. The Blackwell stoppage was BS. I watched that fight live. It was BS. It was premature. But the Billy Joe Saunders fight was close. Billy Joe won it for me, definitely. The Blackwell, I mean, if you go and watch Nick Blackwell versus John Ryder, especially the first round, you'll wonder how John Ryder ever lost that fight, because he couldn't miss Nick Blackwell early on in that fight, and he just mentally just came apart. He just seemed to just stop, and he was taken out. It was, I think, Howard Foster refereed that fight, if I'm not mistaken, and it was a real premature. I'm pretty sure it was Howard Foster, actually, now that I think about it, who refereed that fight. I'm nearly sure it was actually Howard Foster, and it was real premature. Looking forward to seeing Ruiz. If he moves better, we have a danger. Yeah, like, I'm not happy this fight's on pay-per-view. I don't mind the fact that it's Chris Areola, to be 100% honest with you. It's just the fact that it's on pay-per-view. But I'm keen to see how Andy Ruiz looks. I think he is going to be a problem. If they're making him out to be as good as he's going to look, he is going to be a problem. Wadley was trying to fight like Pretty Boy Kelly, and we all know what happened there. Yeah. And Pretty Boy Kelly never looked that particularly slick to begin with, you know. Campbell hadn't looked like he needed to stay amateur for another few years. Yeah, he did have a very limited 15 fights as a novice. So it's a double-edged sword at the end of the day, because most people who've had 15 fights as a novice would never turn pro and get a promotional deal with Eddie Hearn, obviously. But the good, that's good, because it gives you some great backing. The problem is people like me and you, we know that there's no point trying to rush this kid. You know, he's still going to be learning on the job. But you'll get people who will be saying, "Oh, why can't you move? Why can't he this?" But you know, that sort of way. So that's what I said in my post fight. It could be a double-edged sword. You know, as good as it is to have Campbell Hatton pro, and we know it's going to be over 10 fights before we can really get a good gauge of how good he is. You'll have people who'll be just like, "Oh, he's Ricky Hatton's son. He should be amazing. Why is he fighting these guys? You know, that guy is no use. This, that, and the other." It's not like that. It doesn't work like that. I'd say give the kid some time. You know, don't judge him based on one fight. Give the kid a bit of time. He has a lot of work to do. Think he'll get flattened down the line regardless. He may very well. I personally hope he does well for himself. I really do. You know, I really do. This live, I was just playing Hatman, a video Hatman. No, man, 100% live. Big up, 100% live. We always do a Sunday live. Always do a Sunday live. What happened to Manny Pacquiao? He's falling off the edge of the earth. I think he's trying to be Mr. Senator in Philippines or something like that. That's what he's doing these days. Gorman is actually a decent boxer, but doesn't live the life and has small arms. Yeah, Gorman is frustrating because there is a good fighter there. There really is. There's a good little fighter there in Nathan Gorman. But Nathan Gorman is a bit like Andy Ruiz, where he just, he gets that potential just goes based upon just not being able to stay in shape, basically. Like, yeah, he got rid of Pavel Savas, so did Huey Fury. But he just can't keep himself in shape, mate. That's the problem with Nathan Gorman. There is a good fighter there, but how much was he? Like 270 something? It's like, I remember Dell said that he's never been an athlete. And I've never been an athlete myself. Yeah, I box a little bit, but I've never been an athlete. But I've never let myself go to that extreme. I mean, like, Jesus Christ. How, like, you as a professional boxer and you have a bit of talent, how is it that I finish a fight right now, time to gain, 3 stone and happily do it? I don't get it. I just don't understand it. I'll big up to Timmy every time. Big up to Timmy kneeling every time, man. Salute to G, man. Oh, and speak of Dell. Big up to Blue Collar Sports TV. Shout out to Dell. Easily one of my favorite channels on YouTube. Big up to you, my man, every time. Problem for Campbell, the fact that he is on pay-per-view means people will expect him to step up quickly. I don't think him being on pay-per-view is any good. He's going to be on the pay-per-view, the Chisora Parker one as well. Yeah, I know, Dell. I agree with you on that as well. I think that's a bad idea as well. I think that if I was managing Campbell Hatton, I wouldn't have any issue saying to Eddie Hearn, right, we're signed with Matchroom, but if there's a way we could have, say a fight in Spain or somewhere like that, or just give him little fights that the world aren't watching him, if you know what I mean. Stuff like that to build him, because he needs to be built slowly. And the problem with him being on these platforms, and the problem, as I said, with him having 15 novice fights and then signing with Matchroom, is simple that, people will look at him and be like, oh, it's Ricky Hatton's son, he needs to do this. It's just like, well, he needs to be built slowly because he's not got the amateur background. So you can't expect him to, be fighting for titles after 10 fights or anything like that. And I mean area titles. So, it's a double-edged sword. Like, it's good for him because it gets him opportunities that others may not have had. But at the same time, you'll have fans who will just want, why isn't he stepping up? Why isn't he doing this? Why isn't he doing this? It's just like, well, He's not doing it because he didn't have enough amateur fights. You can't just. It's not like, you know, he's Ricky Hatton, so he's automatically going to have all the Ricky Hatton skills. It just doesn't work like that. There have been plenty of sons who followed their dads into boxing who've been no use. I mean, Jesus, thinking off the top of my head, who actually? Julio Cesar Chavez Jr. This actually comes first name that comes to mind. Yeah, he won a world title, but he is pretty terrible. It has to be said. And he only won that title because he was huge at the weight. And HBO gave him an easy touch as well. I forget the guy's name he fought, but that was an easy touch. And he was in the picture of Billy Joe, yeah. And Billy Joe was trying to play down. He's trying to like have a few games with Canelo there. Because only a few weeks ago, he's posting pictures of himself eating Chinese. He's trying to play games with Canelo. I don't think Canelo is the right guy to play games with. He's not going to bite. Mackintosh's style, Mackinson's style is a nightmare for anyone. He's more like a fencer than a boxer. No wonder he got a few knockouts. He's got so few knockouts, but certainly knows how to rack up points. I couldn't believe that when he beat Congo. I actually was just like, what the hell? When I seen that, I really didn't think he'd beat him. I really didn't think he would. Ayo, he did, and fair play. G-Man, I'm not a huge fan of Khan, but he was the fastest boxer to me in terms of speed and combinations. How about you? I'm the opposite. I was a fan of Khan, still am. I think Amir Khan is value for money to watch inside and outside the ring. I think Amir Khan is just non-stop entertainment. Literally, mate. He is non-stop entertainment. Big up to Jay Hurst. Florian Marku collapses Congo and Mackinson. Yeah, I think we would all be going for Marku in that fight. I did talk about Willie Hutchinson earlier. Yeah, I seen that loss. I never really was too keen on Willie Hutchinson as a fighter, to be honest with you. He never really showed me anything. But, you know, that was a bad knockout. I seen the highlights of it. I actually watched the full fight this morning, and Lennox Clark was winning the fight for me anyway. It was Howard Foster, wasn't it? Yeah, I had a feeling it was Howard Foster, all right. I was nearly sure it was. Campbell style, not for the amateurs. Yeah, no, that style definitely wouldn't work in the amateurs. It wouldn't make you... The amateur judges are sticklers. Like, if you go in there looking to take someone's head clean off, the amateur judges ain't going to be too kind to you. They really like their technique, and the amount of times I've seen one fighter clearly win an amateur fight by just being aggressive and just landing some hard shots and then not get a decision or have a close decision when they've won every round is just BS. That's the amateurs for you. Was I the only one who missed Babbage on the Whyte Paveckin undercard? I heard he wants Nick Webb. Yeah, I would have liked to have seen Babbage on that card. It would have been good. He's injured, but him against Webb. Be interested to know Dell's opinion on that if he's still in the chat. I'd give Nick Webb a good shout against Alan Babbage. I don't know about Dell, but I'd give Nick Webb a fairly decent shot against Babbage. Would I pick him? Probably not, but you see, imagine Babbage going in there and trying to put it on someone who's that much bigger and hits that much harder. And how would he react to if Nick Webb hit him? You know, Nick Webb only glanced on Eric Pfeiffer and had him in all sorts of trouble. So that'd be an interesting fight for me. Real interesting. I'd be real intrigued about that fight. Without sounding harsh, Ben and Hatton Jr. seemingly gimmicks. Hope I'm proven wrong, but not often in boxing do sons outshadow their father. Yeah, Shane Mosley Jr. was actually a good shout as well. Shane Mosley Jr. He's lost a few times. And apologies, I clicked on the wrong one. I'll read that in a sec, mate. But yeah, Shane Mosley Jr., he's lost a few times. He's not really done much, to be fair. The Shane Mosley Jr., there's been a few others. Steve Collins Jr., he's garbage. Who else? There's a few sons who came into boxing following their dad, and they really didn't do much. Yeah, Shane Mosley Jr., he's lost a few times. Steve Collins Jr. is absolute garbage. Harley Ben has lost already. Who else? There's a few. What's the guy's name in the intro? Ty M Boot. Ty FL TV. That is one of my favorite channels. Just purely for comical reasons. I could listen to Ty M Boot all day. Ty M Boot. Him and Echo Falls. And I've never drank Echo Falls, but only ever since I started watching a lot of Tie and Boot, I'm looking at Echo Falls and I'm like, will I buy it? Will I buy it just for the taste? Yeah, Pigeon just said Nathaniel Wilson there as well. That's another one. Nathaniel Wilson. There's been others. Who else has there been? There's definitely been others. I know George Foreman, the third boxed, and he was undefeated, but he didn't really do anything. But I wouldn't call him an out-and-out failure because he kind of decided to go down the training route. And he was undefeated, to be fair. But who else is there? There's been a few. And like that, they do get opportunities because of the name. I mean, put it like this. Steve Collins Jr. got deals with MTK and was on a few Frank Warren shows. Have you ever seen Steve Collins Jr. fight? He's terrible. So they get opportunities, but it just doesn't do. It doesn't mean you're going to be as good as your dad or whoever. Apart from Corey Spinks, yeah, Corey Spinks done okay for himself. He did, to be fair. Apart from Corey Spinks and Chavez Jr., I can't think of any sons of champions that reached their father's level. But Corey Spinks really Chavez Jr. really didn't do much other than win that world title. And fair play to him. He won that world title. I give him all the credit in the world. But in reality, like Chavez Jr. he won that world title. He fought some weak guy and he won it on a majority decision. And he didn't really do much until he fought Martinez. And since then, he's really just been cannon fodder. You know, people, 91 in the chat. Thank you to everyone in the chat. I hope you're enjoying it. If you could smash the like button, please. It's free. Not asking for much. Just smash the like button. I appreciate the 91 in the chat, by the way. It's nice. We do some good numbers on these live streams, don't we? Thomas Hearn's son, Ronald, went nowhere. Who else has there been, though? Because there has been others. And it's annoying me now. I'm trying to think of sons of fighters. And someone else, Marvis Fraser. He didn't do really anything. He was, I remember Larry Holmes, when he fought Marvis Fraser, really didn't want to take that fight because he knew Marvis Fraser wasn't much and he knew the boy would get hurt. And Larry Holmes just landed a right hand on Fraser. He was asking the referee to stop it. He didn't want that fight to carry on. There was Marvis Fraser. Who else? Naz's sons haven't come into boxing yet. Julian Jackson's son, John Jackson. Yeah, he has his own bit of trouble, though, doesn't he? He got in trouble for some weird stuff I'm not going to get into. But John Jackson was famously knocked out badly by Andy Lee. I know Chavez Jr. beat Andy Lee up. That's probably his best win. Probably his best win. After that, there's not really anyone else that comes to mind. Like, I'm just trying to think back through my knowledge of the sport of boxing for any sons of former champions who came through, and there really isn't that I can think of off the top of my head. And that's really it. Like, it's weird, like, because none of them have really done that much, to be honest with you. Apart from, Corey Spinks and Chavez Jr., there's not really anyone else, Oh, yeah, of course. How could we forget that? Floyd Mayweather. And he definitely done better than his dad. Floyd Mayweather. How actually could I forget that? There's been a few others. Are we talking about, though, the kind of world level? Because if you're talking, there's been plenty of boxers. Like, put it like this, right? Buster Douglas, his dad, was a professional boxer. He was a light heavyweight. But obviously, Buster Douglas did better than his dad. But that's a bit of an unfair analogy because his dad was a durable contender. Like Michael Hunter. Would you say Michael Hunter has done better than his dad? Probably has, although Michael Hunter Sr. was quite decent in the 90s. He was a contender, a fringe contender. Michael Hunter Sr., he's dead now, RIP. He was actually quite good. So is that fair? I think we're talking about big time boxers and stuff like that, But yeah, Michael Hunter Sr., he was useful. He was useful in the 90s. Tommy Morrison, his son, Trey Lippy Morrison, he's fighting the undercard. Whose undercard is he fighting on? He's fighting on the undercard of FA Ajagba. He's fighting on the undercard of FA Ajagba, Trey Lippy Morrison. Then Trey Lippy Morrison is nothing to write home about. In fact, there was actually talk of Lippe Morrison fighting Dave Allen before Dave Allen signed to fight Lovejoy. Oh, good old one shot himself. We can't go through a stream without mentioning the Don, the legend, one shot. Evening to George, evening G-Man and the chat, hashtag G-Man's Rocks, of course. Big suited plumber from Liverpool. But I love that avatar. It is perfect. Like, I could stay here and just do it like this, or I could use that avatar. I'm taking the avatar, definitely. But that avatar is funny. That's definitely a funny avatar. But yeah, him against Webb. I don't know, man. I'd nearly go with Pricey should win that fight, but Nick Webb hits hard, man. And Pricey against anyone who's a hard puncher is a danger. If he's could, lads, what that comment on screen just says there, by the way. And yeah, Metcalf's dad was Shane Erie. Shane Erie was a good fighter. He was WBU champion. We don't count that, but Shane Erie was entertainment. He was value for money. Most box fans live the height of their dads. Even Dave Allen's dad was better than Dave. Tyson. Yeah, Tyson has done more than John Fury ever did in the sport. Yeah. I think John Fury lost to Henry Akin one day, amongst others. So it depends. Like, I mean, there's so many analogies you could use. You could turn around and say, like I just said there, yo, G, you can't say, like, just because their dad was this, like, Buster Douglas was better than his dad. I'm talking about world level kind of dads in terms of, like, you know, your Chavez's, your Mosleys, your, you know, Hearns, the Thomas Hearns. Most of them never achieved the heights. And if you look at Conor Ben's doing his own thing. He's improving. In terms of Hardy Ben, I mean, Jesus. Nice kid, but God, he is pretty obscure in the nicest possible way. But he is not at it in the right home about. Sky made a first card, quickly becoming a casual's wet dream. Yeah, they need to put a good heavyweight. Like, if they put someone like Pricey versus Nick Webb or Babbage versus Webb, that's interesting. But it's not a great card. In all seriousness, it really isn't. It's pretty poor. It's very poor, lads. It's shit. Like, I'm not paying for it. I didn't pay for the card last night. I'm not paying for this card. It's shit. Watch Hatton in the open workout. Kid did an interview with Sky straight after. He was gasping for air. I thought that's strange, moving around the ring for 5 minutes and you're already tired. Yeah, he was in a 4-rounder. Like, that does beg the question: how good is the kid's stamina? So you're in a 4-rounder and you're gassing out after 4 rounds. I mean, like, I can do 4 rounds, and I'm not a good fighter by no stretch of the imagination, but I'm competent, and I could do 4 rounds even now at a, you know, okay pace. Obviously, I wouldn't be forcing the knockout, but 4 rounds isn't a lot. It is bizarre. I know. Look, on an occasion like that, nerves can get to you and they can cause you to fatigue. And I don't doubt for one iota of a second that nerves played a big factor in in Campbell Hatton getting a bit tired in there. Don't doubt that for a second, you know, because it happens. Best believe when you get nervous, you will get tired and you will make mistakes. You know, I've had that happen to me before. Not even in boxing, just things where I've been like, okay, you overthink things. Whereas me now, and I remember someone in the comment section was like, you know, when you're saying, you know, oh, when you overthink things and when you say about, you know, I believe in this, you know, you're such narcissistic. It's like, so what am I supposed to say? I'm fucking shit? No. When it comes to dad and sons, the successful ones that comes from boxing families. I don't know how deep boxing is with Matthew and Ricky Hatton's family. We have to see, man. We'll have to wait and see how we go. Only time will tell. Only time will tell. Hatton was still trying to fight at an amateur pace. That could have been something. And I think what James says there, nervous energy, definitely played a factor in it. But I think that it could be possibly one of them as well. I think that he could have been just with his amateur days, you know, knowing that this is amateur boxing and at novice level. All right, I don't know about the UK, but I know in Ireland at novice level, it's 2-minute rounds. I don't know about the UK. If anyone is an amateur in the UK or is around amateur gyms, if novice is 2-minute rounds there, please let me know. But as far as but I know, because I've been around them, at novice level, it's 2-minute rounds. So you really got to get your work in super quick. All right. So if anyone knows, if anyone's in the UK, which I'm sure most of you are, and have done any boxing or at novice level, please let me know. Please let me know, people. But oh, it is 2-minute rounds. Yeah, no, because it's 2-minute rounds here as well. So I suspect that might have been something like if Campbell Hatton is used to 2-minute rounds, and that's where he's coming from, I suspect that could be a lot of what to do with it. Yeah, same for us, G. It's 2 minutes. I know Ireland tend to do things a bit all over the place, but it is 2 minutes. Okay. Potentially that could be what happened as well. Because if it's drummed into your mind, because believe you me, from experience, a 2-minute round is over like that. It's quite remarkable, really, how much you have to get into a 2-minute round. It's pretty crazy. So that could have been what Campbell Hatton had to do there, and maybe he's just not used to it. I don't know. Over 100 people on the live stream and no dislikes. Yes, 120. Big up to everyone, man. Thank you all for dropping in, man. I really appreciate it. Thank you. 120 in the building. Appreciate all the support, lads and lassies. I'm really I'm chuffed with that. See, I love seeing numbers. I'm happy if there's 30 people in the building, but 120, big up. And no dislikes. You've jinxed me now, mate. You know that. You've jinxed me now. Still no dislikes. Thank you. And if he's good, 111, smash the like. I was thinking, you jinxed me now, and I'll get a dislike chucked at me. But yeah, says a lot about the content. Man, big up. How much boxing ability did Nigel Benn have? Conor probably already is it. Well, Nigel Benn kind of started boxing more towards the end of his career. I know for the McClellan fight, he didn't really box. Well, he boxed early on, but that didn't work at all. So what he did then was he would revert back to his normal kind of just go in, take your head off kind of style. Conor's boxing ability, like this next fight he's going to have is going to tell us a lot against Vargas. Vargas is good. He's durable. So we need to see how he goes. Conor Benn's improved. Like I at one stage thought Conor Benn would never get to even British level. But he's going on. He's moving on. Conor Benn is someone who spends a lot of time in the gym. And I get the impression that he's not, like you look at Eubank Jr., right? Eubank Jr. knows it all, right? He knows about this. He knows about this. Conor Benn is one of them guys who's willing to learn. If a trainer says, do it like the way I show you, he'll do it the way you show. Whereas Eubank knows all the answers, It's like that Socrates quote I quoted in a couple of videos. G-Man, best boxing channel around. Man, I hope so. We got to keep this going. I love doing this, man. This is fun. Thoughts on, I think Ruiz would win. I think it'd be competitive, though. The jab of Dillian Whyte could cause Ruiz some issues, definitely. Could definitely cause Ruiz a couple of issues, the jab of Dillian Whyte. So I've no doubt about that, but we need to, I'd love that fight. Him against Wilder, him against Ruiz, either or. He mentioned Trevor Bryan. I don't particularly want to see that fight because Bryan, as far as I'm concerned, in the nicest possible way, ain't anything to write home about, as a heavyweight. So that'd be a fairly straightforward win for Dillian Whyte. So I would personally rather see him against a Wilder or a Ruiz. I think Wilder's more winnable than Ruiz. Even though I think Wilder would win, I think that Ruiz would have a field day countering Dillian Whyte off the front foot. I think he'd have an absolute field day with him. I did watch that. I watched the fight. I did in Ghana. That was a hell of a knockout. See, I don't watch a lot of UFC. I have to admit, I'm not a massive UFC fan, but I did watch that, and I have to admit, it was a hell of a knockout. It was actually good fun to watch. Like I said, lads, I'm a casual UFC fan. I know the big names and the big fights. In terms of everything else, I wouldn't really be up to speed on everything. I'm just not as intrigued with UFC as I am with boxing. I love boxing. Just love every aspect of it. So for me, UFC, it's a good little sport. And I do watch the big fights, but it's never done it for me like boxing does. Who do you think the best conditioned boxer was in recent times? Do you know who I would say it would be? Carl Froch. Carl Froch's conditioning was absolutely crazy. Carl Froch the amount of stamina he left. We can complain about Carl Froch all we want, but Carl Froch conditioning was never an issue with Carl Froch. Absolutely great conditioning Carl Froch had. So in recent times, I'd have to say Carl Froch. I mean, you put Carl Froch in the 12th round and he's behind on all cards. He can still get that knockout and he is still just as strong as he would have been in the first round. So I would say Carl Froch. If you want to talk about just who was the best conditioned fighter I've seen in the last while, easily Carl Froch. I don't want Brian, but if it's on my DAZN for 129, can't complain. That's the worst thing about Sky. That's why I hope Eddie Hearn just bins them, just get rid of Sky, because DAZN for £2 a month, and it probably will go up if Eddie Hearn does bin Sky, but DAZN for £2 a month, and we only get the US cards, man. That's bullshit. I don't like. I streamed last night, but I don't want to. The whole point of having that app is that we get boxing on it, and I'd rather just get all the DAZN fights on that app and get all the UK Matchroom cards on that as well. That's what I want. Yeah, agree. Froch's conditioning, considering his talent, he overachieved. He would have been a good. Oh man, that's a good shout. Froch in the 15 round days, he would really have been something. Now there we go. Froch in the 15 round days. Yeah, Froch was never sophisticated. He was never the most skilled. But like, even if you watch Carl Froch's jab, like he would jab. His jab was so off that he had to hold his right hand down low because he was so off balance throwing his jab. So Carl Froch was not sophisticated. He was tough. He was durable, and he left no stone unturned in training. For all the criticism I've had about Carl Froch, conditioned and harsh, he's a warrior in there. And I love watching Carl Froch fight. So definitely the Carl Froch, big up to him. Him and Joe Calzaghe, another one, no stone unturned. He was no ordinary Joe. And Joe Calzaghe is one of my favorite fighters of all time, personally. I absolutely love Joe Calzaghe. You know, I really did. Always was a big fan of Joe. Oh, before I read that, big up to Toby. Big up to Toby. Salute the G-Man and the chat. Hashtag G-Man's rocks. Big up to Toby. We got some good lads in here tonight. I want Wilder versus Whyte so bad. Low key, I'd look forward to that fight as much as Undisputed. I would as well. I'd look forward to both fights, mate, to be honest with you. You're guaranteed a knockout in either of them. And I'd honestly look forward to both fights, either or. You know, so long as we get one, man, your boy is happy. So long as we get one. But Calzaghe, he was something special. He was something special. Something about big fights, big fighters. Froch, Bellew, AJ, so full of himself. Well, Harley Quinn is just a cheerleader. Froch, ego, massive ego. AJ's not too bad. You know, AJ's all right. But yeah, Harley Quinn, and Harley Quinn will tell you how good AJ is. You know, he loves AJ. Mr. J, oh, Mr. J, you're so great. And for those who don't know, I always call Tony Bellew Harley Quinn. Same thing, you know. Mr. J, oh, Mr. J. You're right about the zone thing. Wife was clowning last night, asking what am I paying it for. It's bullshit though, considering like that, like, you know, you pay £2 a month for that DAZN app, and there are fights on DAZN, but Sky want to charge you for. Fuck that, you know. And they have English commentary and everything on it. Just let them have it on DAZN, you know. Just let us have it all on DAZN. That's why I hope to God they just bin Sky Sports altogether, because it makes more sense for Eddie Hearn. I don't understand why you do it like that. Just let them have it all on the one app. That's just what I want. Just let them have it on the one app. Actually, Harley Quinn in the comic outgrew the Joker. Yeah, no, I watched it from when I was a kid, so I'll go by the old Harley Quinn. I'll stick with the old Harley Quinn. And Tony Bellew reminds me of that. You know, just the little cheerleader. And Anthony Joshua, last name is, you know, Joshua, obviously. So Tony Bellew sees him. Mr. J, you're so strong, Mr. J. Proper cheer. And I wonder, will Sky have him on? Because they didn't have, they didn't have him on last night. I'm not sure he's mates with Dillian Whyte though. But will they have him on the Chisora Parker card? That's going to be interesting, because he got reprimanded last time. So I wonder, will they have him on this one? Because he even said, if my friends are on, don't put me on the card. So that's going to be interesting. I wonder, will they have him on this card? That's going to be interesting. Will they have Harley Quinn there? Can't help but find Harley Quinn hilarious. Throw on an interview for a laugh. You'll never see me again, Cougs. Oh, yeah. Do you remember that? I just want to be left alone with my family. I just want to, you'll never see me again. And then he's giving, he's just, he is funny though. And at the same time, like, as annoying as he can be, he gives me entertainment and he gives me and Dell content as well. That's the thing, like, me and Dell, as annoying as certain fighters are, we just eat off them. Like Christopher Lovejoy, if they announce him against Alan, me and you, Dell, we would have an absolute field day making videos about that. We would have an absolute field day. Me and you would do the commentary on it, and we would have an absolute laugh with it. And Frotch is a good troll. He is. Before I read that, mine was too. It was absolutely horrific until the last two fights, and then it got a little bit better. But before that, it was absolutely a joke. I ended up finding one very important stream, but it had the Sky commentary on it, which was crap. That was for the Cheeseman fight, which was crap, by the way. G-Man, who do you got in the Lomachenko rematch? I find it a joke. People are disregarding Loma now since the start. I said he'd lose when he goes too far in terms of weight. I'd still go with Teofimo. I would say, Loma would start early, but if he starts early, he runs the risk of getting tagged and hurt, or at least dropped. So I would still go with Teofimo, but it's a close fight. And the 119-109 scorecard in that fight was a joke of a scorecard. It was an absolute joke of a scorecard. But in terms of who I think would win, I think that Teofimo would win the rematch. I think he's just a bit too big, but you never know. Lomachenko is a great fighter. Make no mistake about it. And he's not got old overnight or anything like that. So he's always in there with a shout. He really is. Matchroom and Time will have their own app, I think, and show their own sport and cut out the middleman. What do you think, G? I think that could happen, mate. Do you know that? It honestly could. I mean, Eddie Hearn has grown Matchroom to such a degree that they could put it like this, right? A lot of my friends, just normal everyday friends, will be casuals, out and out casuals, right? And as far as they're concerned, Eddie Hearn runs boxing. So if you have a fight between, so put it like this, they knew Canelo was fighting Triple G a few years ago. Oh, Eddie Hearn put that fight on, didn't he? No, he didn't. It was Oscar De La Hoya. Oh, does Eddie Hearn not just run boxing? So they're, as far as most casuals are convinced, certainly over here, Eddie Hearn runs boxing. End of. So if he launched an app for boxing, they buy it. That's as far as they're concerned. Eddie Hearn is the boxing. They think Eddie Hearn is like Dana White. And now I have a lot of time for, I think Eddie Hearn, yeah, I don't trust everything he says, but I definitely do like his banter. I'll give him that. I have to respect Calzaghe, Burns, Lewis achieved so much but faded away once they were done. Yeah, Ricky Burns, really, we don't hear much about him these days at all. Same with Lewis, still covers some fights, commentates a bit. Calzaghe, likewise, I haven't seen him. I've seen his interview with Ali Drew, jokingly, but that's it. I don't see much of Calzaghe these days. Not really at all these days, in all fairness. So yeah, I guess someone like that, Ricky Burns, has always been a very quiet chap. So I suspect that he just is happy enough doing what he's doing. His last fight was a loss to Lee Selby. It was a close fight. Ricky Burns, he still had a little bit left, but I think Ricky Burns is well and truly done. He might have one last, hurrah fight, but I suspect that's probably Ricky Burns, moving swiftly on. Before I read that, Joe, that's a good fight. That's going to be a tricky fight for Lomachenko. That Nakatani guy is tough. Oh, is he fighting Tennyson? Really? That's interesting. That could end very badly for Ricky Burns if he's regressed sufficiently. Not that Tennyson's amazing. He's very good, but Ricky Burns, a prime Ricky Burns, would have no problem with Tennyson. I got plenty of criticism regarding pay-per-views, but what Hearn's done over the last decade for British boxing is astonishing. It is. Yes, we can criticize the pay-per-views. Rightfully so. Some of them are absolutely shit, what he's put on pay-per-view. But what he's done in terms of growing the sport, getting out to a casual audience, resurrecting it. Because British boxing was not in a good place. If you look at like 2010, right? 2011, when Eddie Hearn came onto the scene with Wadley Harrison, it was not in a particularly good place. You David Hay milking a WBA title, but putting fights like him against Wadley Harrison on pay-per-view. So it wasn't in a particularly amazing place. Eddie Hearn comes along and just it does a 180, and it was a slow burner. Look at some of those old Matchroom shows. They weren't great, but it's like anything in life. I mean, I suppose I've said it before, you have to learn how to walk before you can run. I made that mistake a few times in my life. I did. I'm learning from it, and Eddie Hearn has done something similar, just in a different aspect. In order to get to where you need to get, you need to learn how to walk. You can't just go in all guns blazing and think, right, here we go, it's going to be perfect. Ain't going to work like that. You're only going to end up making more hurdles. So what Eddie Hearn has done, that's fantastic. G-Man, you think we're going to get Estrada Chocolatito 3? We're definitely going to get Estrada Chocolatito 3. I'm happy that we're going to get it, but I'm just pissed off that it's going to be franchise. I hate that title. I fucking hate that title. That title is just bollocks. Love the fight, but hate the title. It's bittersweet. It's a double-edged sword. Like, I want it, but I don't want franchise. I never thought we'd see Hearn again after that. Yeah, I have my problems with him as a hardcore, but he's done a great job. He's absolutely brilliant. Like, for what he's done, he's done an amazing job. Like, I mean, like, where would would we have AJ? Seriously, like, who else would he have got? Would he have had the same exposure? You know, if he'd gone with an American or anything like that, if he'd gone with Frank Warren, you know, where would boxing be in the UK without Eddie Hearn? You know, people attribute Anthony Joshua, Carl Froch, Kell Brook to the rise of it. But you got to remember, Eddie Hearn was the guy who spearheaded that. So you have to thank an Eddie Hearn. Yeah, some of the things he does is cringe, but he's more approachable than guys like Frank Maloney, guys like Frank Warren, you know, Mick Hennessy. It just, everything he does is just so much different. It's so much better. You know, people are going to think I'm a Hearn fanboy, but like, you got to give credit where it's due. He's put on some shit pay-per-views, and he said some things that are complete BS. But in terms of what he's done, he's fantastic. You know, he really is. But lads and lassies, what I'm going to do, right? Froch was fighting for peanuts before Hearn. Yeah, Mick Hennessy, you know, Mick Shades of Ali Hennessy. And I remember Carl Froch said Mick Hennessy was the best promoter he ever had before he met Eddie Hearn. But lads and lassies, what I'm going to do is I'm going to call it quits here, right? I'm going to go leave a link in the chat. There you go. Left the link there. I'm going to go rock over onto Ade's stream, Box Talk with Ade, friend of mine, good mate of mine. Tell him G-Man sent you. You know, we go over there. We have a listen to what he has to say, right? Because I wanted to do an hour. I've done about an hour and a half. So people, hope you enjoyed it. I'll do another one of these Tuesday, Wednesday. I'll get some videos up for you tomorrow. We had 118 in the chat. I appreciate you all in here. You know, I'm happy when I get 30 in the chat, let alone 130. So you can imagine your boys appreciating that. As for now, hope you all enjoy your Sunday. We'll rock over onto Ade's stream. Tell him G-Man sent you, if you could. I left that link there, didn't I? Yep. Links there for anyone who wants to join. I'm rocking on over there now. Big up to all of you guys. And lads and lassies, for now, I'm going to talk to you. I just want to big up to Timmy. Obviously, before I go, actually, big up to a few people. Big up to Timmy. Big up to last of the Scofflaw. I hope I'm saying that name right. If I'm not, apologies. Big up to Dell, wherever Dell is. A big up to Joe. I can't get, where the hell is Dell's comment gone? Where the hell is Blue Collar Sport? Oh, there we go. Yeah, big up to Dell. But yeah, rock over on the Ade stream. We'll see how that goes. As for now, people, I'll talk to you. Have a great Sunday and a great week. Peace.